My best friend and I are well known in my small town for being the two that get into trouble, and I mean trouble. Some would say that this night was nothing special compared to our other fiascos, but Jack and I are still haunted to this day. It was a weekend when both of our parents would be out of town together on a business trip, the perfect recipe for one of our classic adventures. Little did we know this would be our last adventure, ever. There is this old abandoned warehouse that the high schoolers in our town do drugs and hang out and such, but ever since a big accident, no one shows their face around there. Everyone in the town says that the place is haunted, but my best friend and I said it was the perfect place to explore. We were comically unprepared for any kind of dangerous encounter we might face in this warehouse, seeing as all we brought was our phones and high spirits. We got to the building at about 2 a.m., not risking getting into any kind of trouble. We squeezed our way through an ajar door to get into a massive, maze-like chamber that held thousands of boxes. We could only see what our flashlights would illuminate, and therefore decided to stick together. Our pillaging was cut off by an enormous thud that rang out throughout the warehouse ceiling. We both stopped dead in our tracks and quickly clicked off our flashlights, engulfing us in darkness, in the middle of the warehouse. I whispered to Jerry, "We need to go." He responded by gently placing his fingers on my mouth to signal that we needed to be quiet. That's when I could feel the presence of someone's eyes on me. I have never been more still in my life. That's when I heard Jerry yell from about 10 feet away from me. My heart plummeted to the floor when I realized that the person next to me was not my best friend. Breaking the brief paralysis, I hurled myself forward, knocking a very large man to the ground. I heard him groan as his body hit the floor, and I ran full force, basically blindfolded by the darkness through a cluttered warehouse. Charging forward, Jerry and I convened, running parallel with what I knew to be my friend. He made a weird panting noise when he was under pressure, and it sounded like he was going to faint. I then heard a loud clanging noise followed by the sound of Jerry's body hitting the concrete floor of the building. I could hear footsteps and groaning of two men running in our direction. They were getting closer to us. I pushed Jerry back into consciousness, and him and I stumbled forward to where we thought the door we came in through was. He could barely see the light of the door when a rambunctious and almost childish laugh echoed from closely behind us. It felt as if the voice came from only a meter away. We hurled ourselves through the door and outside the building. After running a few hundred yards away from the building, we caught our breath and looked back at the warehouse. We saw the shadows of two men standing by the warehouse, both next to each other, facing us. When we got home, we could barely sleep. We didn't call the cops because we didn't want to get in trouble, but we still talk about it to this day. Most weekends nowadays, we stay in playing video games, occasionally bringing up that horrible night.